In this video, I'm going to go over how to calculate the amount of calories that you want to get in Keto Chow and then use that to figure out how much fat to add to Keto Chow. So on the How to Prepare Keto Chow page, it tells you to add the fat of your choice. One of the biggest strengths of Keto Chow, one of the things that makes it unique, is that you're able to customize the amount of fat that you're using, and you're able to customize the type of fat that you're using. You can use butter, you can use heavy cream, you can use avocado oil, coconut oil. There's a bunch of different things that you can use. The important thing is to find out how much to use. Now, on the How to Prepare Keto Chow page, there's a bunch of different information. We have this How to Chow that gives you rough numbers. Just saying if you want 500 calories per meal, use this much. Well, that's all good. This right here, this calculator, which you can actually find on that previous page as well, will tell you in greater detail and with a bunch of different measurements, and you can switch from butter to oil. You can do all sorts of different things. The first step is to find out how many calories you need. And we like to refer people to the calculator that's on Maria Emmerich's site. It's very simple and it gives good information. So all you really need is your weight and your body fat percentage and your activity level. And body fat percentage is a little bit difficult. If you haven't gone in for a DEXA scan or you haven't used a body caliper or something like that, well, if you go to that page, it talks about all the different things for measuring it. And then it has, well, here's males and then females. So you can look at the photos and you can say, well, if you're a dude, you can say, that looks like me right there. I guess I'm 30 or maybe I'm 35. For females, you can look at there and say, yeah, that's me. I've got that top. Okay, 35%. Great. And if you don't get it right on, you know what? That's probably okay. Just get in the general range. If you want to have it accurate, you can go get a DEXA scan. So let's say we've got a 150 pound individual with 35% body weight, body fat. And then you've got different activity levels. For most people, you're just going to want to select sedentary and then account for any activity that you do in a tracking program if you want to do that. But then here on this page, it gives you 4 different calculations. You've got maintenance, you've got fast weight loss, faster weight loss, and you've got what's called a protein sparing modified fast. And this is actually kind of interesting. You can do this with Keto Chow just with using very little or no fat when you go to mix it up. But for most people, what you're going to want to do is the fast weight loss. And so in this case, it's estimating you need about 1,207 calories. And that's the important thing from here that we're going to be getting. But you can look here. It's telling you that there's a limit of 20 grams of carbs, a goal of 77 grams of protein. The cool thing about that is you can go over that, and it's not a big deal. Carbs is a limit, so you don't want to go over that. And fat is generally a limit as well. But your body will make up any difference in you being lower or higher than that. So 1,207. Let's go back to our previous page. So I'm going to type in 1200 just to make it easy. So 1,200 calories. That's meaning that we need 400 calories a meal. There's a few other options here. The peanut butter changes the equations a little bit because it has more fat, more protein, and carbs. If you want to use butter instead of oil, everything is about the same except that the butter is slightly less calorie dense. So you're going to use more butter than you would of oil. Cool thing about butter is it's less expensive. It tastes amazing. Also, it doesn't have as many carbohydrates as heavy cream, but it is a bit more work to mix up. So there are details on how to mix butter into Keto Chow. Then you're able to choose different units of measure. You can do milliliters, fluid ounces, teaspoons, grams, tablespoons. I usually put it on milliliters because everything is just a matter of numbers. You're not having to divide by 3 to do stuff, and it's a lot easier to measure if you have a good measuring cup. You've got a slider here that allows you to choose whether you want all heavy cream or all butter or oil. And one interesting thing about the oil is you can mix oils. If you want to use avocado oil, if you want to use some MCT oil, for instance, in this case, to do a 400 calorie meal with oil, it'd be 33 milliliters. Well, if you want to use a tablespoon of MCT oil, you could. It would be 1 tablespoon of MCT oil and then 1.2 tablespoons of something else. So it gets a little bit dicey if you're wanting to combine MCT oil with butter, but hey, you can do it. Anyway, I'm just going to check that box for butter, and you see that the numbers change. So if I'm doing 41 milliliters of butter, it's 33 milliliters of oil. And once again, that's just because oil is a bit more energy dense, so you use less of it because, well, butter has water in it. If you were to use clarified butter, which is a lot more expensive and not really necessary, it would actually be the same amount as oil. And then down below, you've got, it actually gives you a calculation where it tells you what the net carbs and protein and fat are per meal. When you're using all oil or butter, the net carbs is actually pretty low. If you use heavy cream, on the other hand, you'll notice it's quite a bit more. And that's simply because heavy cream, although the box that you buy it in may say that it has 0 grams of carbs per tablespoon or per serving, it actually has 0.41. So it's a little bit misleading. The box will, or the package of heavy cream will say one thing. Just assume that it has a half a gram and you're probably safe. This number will give you, this actually gives you the right amounts. And down here below, I have some additional information that carbs are an upper limit. You'd never want to go above the carbs as far as what you got on the calculation page from Maria. Protein is a goal. You want to get that high. If you go over it, it's really not a big deal. In fact, the biggest problem is too little protein. Some people will argue that if you eat too much protein, it'll magically turn into glucose. The issue with that is that that's called gluconeogenesis. You don't really have to get into it, but if you do want to get into it, Dr. Benjamin Bickman settled the debate about glucose and protein and all of that back in 2018. Now, fat is more variable. When you are very first starting a ketogenic diet, you have, well, generally speaking, you're going to have a lot of fat that's stored, but you won't be able to access that fat until your insulin gets a lot lower. And so when you're first starting, for instance, you may want to increase the amount of fat that you're eating, the fat on your plate, because you can't access the fat in storage. And so if you're starting, don't be afraid to maybe increase your calorie goal. And that will allow you to get past the getting used to keto and not having to worry about being hungry. It kind of sucks getting over carbs. It's even worse if you're hungry because you can't access all of the fat that you have stored. So don't worry too much about increasing the amount of fat. And then one thing is get a lot of salt. It has nothing to do with macronutrients, but you need salt like crazy on a ketogenic diet. If you don't get it, you will feel sick. They actually call it keto flu. Make sure you're getting enough salt so that you're able to get past that and able to move on. But anyway, you take these numbers right here, use that to calculate how much you're going to be mixing into your Keto Chow, and you should have a lot of success.